is just dropping shows like crazy on Disney Plus. I haven't even finished watching What If Season 2 yet, and they've already dropped all of Echo on Disney Plus, which I have managed to finish watching. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on Echo, the full season. I think this is mostly going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you want to talk about specifics and spoilers, just put a spoiler warning up down below in the comment section, but I would love to hear your thoughts on all of it. Also, I've been in LA for the last week. I went out to LA for a pair of awards shows, the Astra Film and TV Awards, and while I was out there, I tried to collaborate with as many people as possible. So I actually went out into a radio station in Bakersfield, stayed in a haunted hotel while I was there, went to the awards show on Saturday, which was very cool, and then went to Universal Studios on Sunday with my wife. Her birthday's coming up in just a couple weeks, so we wanted to do something fun while we were there. And then Monday we had the Film Awards where I met Weird Al as well as Stingray from Cobra Kai, and then right before I left town, stopped by Christian Harloff's studio and recorded two different videos, one on the upcoming Mando movie and then one on a full preview of 2024 movies. So it was just a jam-packed week of incredible memories, meeting people, hanging out with some of my YouTube and Twitter friends. It was awesome. But I am back in town, caught up on Echo, so let's do this. And when it comes to Echo in general, I enjoyed it enough. I like this type of show. I want more Marvel properties that are kind of on this scope and scale and size, but it had the same problems as almost all of the other Marvel Disney Plus shows. And it was only amplified by the fact that there was only 5 episodes, so you could just feel that end of season rush that so many of these shows have, and you look at it and you go, you're just missing episodes right here in the middle. Why did you do this? So on the positive side, I just like street level comic book stories. In particular, as I've kind of thought about the comic book movie genre more and more recently, it just seems like so many of them have just escalated to the point that they're all cosmic or multiverse or time travel. Everything is just so big in size, or we're battling gods or for the whole planet or all of the oceans. And we've lost the side where you just have people with skills battling local crime. We just don't see that very often. So when you get Echo, and that's what this is, it's someone that is an actual criminal that's starting to realize that she was on the wrong side and trying to figure out what to do with that. And she's not really motivated by altruism or trying to be a hero, but she knows the path she's been on was not good. But it's all kind of mob stuff, Kingpin's empire, fights, all of it street level, ground level. We're fighting at a skating rink. Like, that's what we're doing here, and that's what I want more of. That's what I enjoy. I grew up on old school action martial arts films. Seeing that in the MCU, that's something I want more of. Not everything needs to be a $200 million gigantic spectacle with global and cosmic stakes. Sometimes it's just about a person trying to survive, a person trying to keep their family safe, a person trying to take down a crime ring. And I like that, and I want more of that. And that's what you get here. Right along those same lines, it's kind of a tried and true plotline for these action movies that I enjoy, but the person with the troubled past returns back home for business, but starts reconnecting with their roots. I like those types of stories, and that's what we're doing with Echo. To that point, though, there's a bit of a bait and switch here, where if you watch the trailers, they very, very clearly tried to sell this as kind of like Daredevil spinoff in New York City, where what was Kingpin doing on the other side? When he's not battling Daredevil, he's over here with Echo raising her and that crime empire. And so this is it, following up Hawkeye, following up Daredevil in New York. And it's not. It is set in Oklahoma. It is entirely set in Oklahoma besides flashbacks and things like that. The whole plot is in Oklahoma. And it's just, you're talking about two radically different vibes, aesthetics, when you're talking about urban, New York City, Hell's Kitchen, her home in Oklahoma. They're not the same, and they mismarketed it or intentionally misrepresented the show because they knew one of these will remind us of a beloved Netflix show, and one of them accurately represents what it is, which it is very heavily tied to Kingpin, but it also has a different aesthetic, different location, a totally different cast. And so that's pretty dishonest the way that the first trailer that they cut and put out and what they're trying to convince you that this show was. But to that point, do I like the type of story that it is? Someone returns back home with a set of skills and a lot of problems that they bring with them. I like those types of stories. And while it's not like I loved any of these characters or was like, that's a new favorite, that's the big standout, they were endearing enough that you like get invested in this community of flawed people, whether they're involved in the crime stuff or whether they're just the family members. Even the family members responded poorly to the events of the past, and thus they're interesting, they're human with how they're handled, how they're written, portrayed in the show. As I've said all along, I like that it's street level, martial arts based. How's the choreography? Uneven at best and inconsistent in how it's choreographed and how it's shot. So before the show came out, they kind of leaked or revealed somewhere this Daredevil fight scene that is presented as a oneer where all the cuts are hidden. They're not hidden very well, but they're hidden. And that kind of has one style in both the choreography and the way that it's shot, probably because Daredevil's there and they're trying to remind us of what came in the past. And, you know, it's okay as a oneer fight scene. It's great to see Daredevil fighting, but it doesn't really compare to what we got of him before. And some of the stuff later in the season, it's very choppy, very unclear choreography and what they're trying to do. And so it's doing a type of action that I enjoy, but it's not doing a great version of it. And that's disappointing when you're trying to remind me of the gritty, visceral choreography in filming of Daredevil, and you're not able to pull it off, which I suspect is a budget thing, but you know, I don't want to hold that too much against the show because Daredevil puts to shame the fighting in the Marvel movies too. So, and the other Marvel Netflix shows, it puts them to shame. So Daredevil is extremely high on the list. So the fact that Echo doesn't live up to it isn't really saying much in my book. But there's also not that many particularly memorable fight scenes. They're okay. You kind of remember the train one, kind of remember the one with Daredevil, and the other ones, you maybe remember the location. The actual choreography itself, not particularly memorable. But when you start getting into the problems here, it's exactly what we feared going into a season that only has 5 episodes, which is to say, it does something that feels a little bit fresh at the beginning. Street level, new character, we're in Oklahoma, it's detached from all the big flashy stuff in the MCU, so it feels different. And then by the end of it, it feels like we're rushing into a finale that's underwhelming. That's exactly what this was. And in particular, the season is only, it's 5 episodes, but the first 2/3 of the first episode, it's all prologue. It's all, here's about her tribe, here's about her upbringing, remember what happened in Hawkeye, remember what happened here, remember what she did to Kingpin. Then the plot kicks in. So you're talking about a season that's 4.5 episodes. And they're all over 30 minutes. It's felt like they got shorter as the season went along. And so the last 2 are the 2 shortest episodes, and that's where it felt rushed. That as soon as we do kind of all the setup work of where you're kind of invested, then it feels like we had to rush to the end. And you get to the end of the 3rd episode and things are working at a nice pace and they have kind of a twist of reveal at the end of the 3rd episode. And you immediately kind of feel like, oh, I feel how we're going to rush this finale. I see how this is going to get rushed really quickly, because it feels like you miss out on all the development that should be right here in the middle of it. You have the setup conflicts, things kick into action, and then it feels like we skip to the end, but like the 40 to 60% window of the story where there's some complications, escalation. Feels like that doesn't have much to it, and we're getting straight to our finale. And the finale in particular is very underwhelming, and with where they go with the story and the superhero stuff and the powers, it didn't feel earned. It just kind of felt like they had to throw it in there. I'm not familiar with Echo from the comics, but this just didn't, it felt like it came out of nowhere. A big part of the problem what we have here with only 5 episodes, that was going to be rushed on a plot level almost certainly no matter what. But then on top of that, they're trying to check a few too many boxes where, well, we want to explore the Native American lore and heritage here. We want to tell the story that's a follow-up to Hawkeye while also really fleshing out the relationship with Kingpin. We want to deliver some Kingpin, a little bit of Daredevil, and we want to introduce superpowers. There's superpowers that tie into the Native American lore, and they're just underdeveloped. You just feel like you rush so far, and it's just like, just kind of says like, ta-da, this is happening, and it just does stuff. And so it's like, just feels like a cop-out, feels like a cheat. In particular, the way it plays out in the final battle to try and get out of a scenario, it's just like, ta-da, magic powers, we can get out of this. Unearned and not interesting, not developed. It was just like, we have to throw a thing in because there has to be superpowers. And it cheapened what I kind of liked about the show besides that, which was that it was grounded in street level. And like, I understand it's the character's Native American, indigenous, and so you want to have proper representation there. But like when you tell a story about Steve Rogers, you don't feel obligated to do flashbacks about his family moving to America or him going to church on Sunday mornings when he's growing up. You just kind of go with it. And whatever that is, when you tell a Native American story, that it's like they always do the same flashbacks of the forming of their tribe, the history, bringing in powers. And it just felt like it was mandated that they had to do that. We're not just treating her as like a character the way we treat every other character. It's like Native American character. You have to check these boxes about this stuff to the point of like it becomes stereotypical rather than treating her and Native American people the same way that they treat every other group of people in the MCU. So it was just odd the way that they lean so heavily into the tropes of when you do a Native American character in a movie or TV show. So it was just odd. And when you only have 5 episodes, you can't really develop it. So it just feels like these weird tacked on prologues on every episode. And surprise, there's magic powers, which was disappointing. So like, I like this type of show, so it's very easy for me to watch. I got invested enough in the characters. I liked the action enough. Certainly, I watched it over 2 days, and I watched the first set of episodes day one and was excited to watch the second set on the back end. As someone that, Daredevil's my favorite show of the last decade, it was great to see Kingpin return. And they really flesh out Kingpin. It's not what they did with him in Hawkeye, where he's like, surprise, he's the villain, and he's just kind of a dialogue scene and a boss fight. Like, he's actually present and important to a full half of this season of where, we learn more about him and what he's been up to, and it feels like classic Kingpin. Daredevil shows up, but it's only a cameo. It's only a cameo. That's it. He's not a major part of it. And he fits. I think this is an example of where I totally get why they put him in the marketing. You're trying to sell your show with a lesser known character. So hint at Daredevil to get people to show up. But at the same time, he's in it so little that I think it needed to be a cameo to not feel like you're cheating. He's so popular. He's so much more famous than our lead character. As soon as you throw him in there, people are like, Daredevil? And he's only in it a pinch. The pinch makes sense. The way her journey, her ties to Kingpin, like the scene, you go, yeah, that actually adds up with what you did right there. I get it, but make it a cameo, make it a surprise. And otherwise, you feel underwhelmed and like you wish there was more, because most of this was leaked on I think all of it was leaked on the internet before the show debuted. Daredevil's full appearance was leaked on the internet. And you go, that's disappointing when that happens. When the whole thing was seen, the surprise was seen. It feels a little bit cheapened. Final one to talk about on here, a lot of people kind of complaining about it was TVMA, but it wasn't dark enough or mature enough. That doesn't really bother me. I mean, it did feel like they were using the TVMA as a marketing thing, where they knew the biggest hook for the show to get people to watch was to tie it to Marvel Netflix, tie it to Daredevil. And people like me are going to eat up anything that might be a taste of those shows that we loved. And so there's TVMA, more violence. Look, Kingpin's in it, and he's violent, and his suit's covered in blood. I mean, that's true. It's not jokey and silly. It is more serious. It is more mature. All of that was good. It's not Marvel Netflix, though. It's not nearly as dark as that. I don't think it needed to be, so I don't really hold that against it. Like, I don't need to have everyone's head being smashed in and bones being snapped to enjoy the show. So that was all fine to me. The issue for me was that it was rushed, that this needed to probably be like 8 episodes. We needed at least 2 more episodes to kind of develop the middle, and we needed a proper like big showdown finale that lived up to everything was building up to. If your most exciting fight scene is your 2 most exciting fight scenes are in the first 2 episodes, the Daredevil and the train sequence, we got a problem. And they didn't have any, like, it was so anticlimactic at the end of this end of the season. That was the problem here. And given that it's only 5 episodes and then that's the shortest of their seasons, it feels like they just started cutting things out. That for whatever reason, they didn't like where it went, something went wrong, so they just cut a ton of stuff out and like, let's just do a nice, quick, breezy 5-episode season. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Doesn't have a weak episode. It's just straight to the point. In which case you have an underdeveloped season. So I don't know what went on here, but it needed more time to develop. Like so many of these seasons, it's right in the wrong blend between a movie and a TV show. It doesn't have the full brevity and impact of a film, and it doesn't have the depth of a TV show. We're right in the awkward middle phase. I like these kinds of shows. I certainly like this show more than She-Hulk, Secret Invasion. It didn't have the disappointment that I had with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know, my expectations were pretty mid for this one, and it probably came in just a little bit below them, but not a lot. But I already had pretty modest expectations for it. So probably lower middle of the pack, but without the disappointment that like Moon Knight also kind of had for me. So that's where it lands for me. Another mid Marvel Disney Plus show. If you weren't convinced by the trailers, if you were kind of going, why are we doing an Echo show? You could probably just sit this one out. If you're a diehard Daredevil fan, it's probably worth checking out to just see more Vincent D'Onofrio. It's only 5 episodes, so it's not a lot of your time, and you do get more Kingpin. Only a pinch more Daredevil, though. Also, if you liked Hawkeye, that street level, it's only 5 episodes. It's worth a try, but no, the ending isn't as big and as satisfying as you want it to be. But if you're just burned out on a lot of Marvel Disney Plus, there's not a lot of reasons to check this one out unless this is your sort of thing, the way it's my sort of thing. Let me know what you thought down below in the comment section. You can check out my thoughts on the Marvel Netflix shows right over there. You can check out those videos I did with Christian Harloff right down there. Thank you so much for watching. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.